Yeah.
their pedestal.
Yeah. So this is what, we should do a whole presentation just on mysteries in the neighborhood. This is one of them. I saw information indicating that there was a sculpture, and the wall in Riverside Park, right? This sculpture is just over the wall at 104th Street, actually about 20 feet north of 104th Street. And so I finally found information on it. The New York Times had an article that indicated that the police were looking for the young thugs, meaning teenage boys, who knocked the statue or the sculpture off its base. And they were confident they were going to capture the kids, but on the base it gave the name of who the bust was. It was the bust. And they asked local people, who is this person? Nobody knew. They went to a couple of local institutions and they said, have you ever heard of this person? Nobody ever heard of him. Finally, at the New York Public Library, somebody there recognized the name. He goes down in history. You'll love this. He was a friend of Emerson, Thoreau. He started out as a Lutheran minister, switched to Congregationalism, and eventually converted to Catholicism. And he was known at the time as the Bulldog Transcendentalist. What a moniker to have. So here he is, Orestes Brownson. He was, so this sculpture, you can see the wall behind it. I actually took a copy of this over to the spot and I started matching up the blocks to figure out exactly where it was. So I got that pinned down, but I haven't found anything in the ground. This was done for the Catholic Club in 1890 when it was on Central Park South. And then it got moved once or twice and it wound up in Central Park, in Riverside Park, where you see it here in 1910. In fact, the dedication ceremony was run by then Senator James O'Gorman, who lived at 318 West 108th Street. And then, in 1941, it got moved up to Fordham University. And if you're ever on Fordham's campus, you can see it. It's right out there. Everybody know this piece, right? This, I used to think, was the first monument in Riverside Park, and I was wrong. This is what we call, Joe, a Couragic monument. Couragic, it models specifically after the Couragic monument at Riverside in Greece. It's a monument, they made monuments to athletes when they distinguished themselves, and they also made monuments to choruses, because when people performed in the dance theater choruses, if they did very well and they won competitions over and over and over again, they would be acknowledged in a way such as this. So this is a Couragic monument. But that's not the first monument that was in Central Park. This too is a little bit of a mystery, a little bit hard to find. Oh, this is at 89th Street and Riverside Drive. Yeah. Steve? I haven't been inside. Have you been inside? No. Yeah, when they had an open house in New York, they used to, Janet went in at one time. So if you have a chance to go into, there's nothing special inside other than you look up at the drum, the cylinder. But it's a great monument for the city. The soldiers and sailors, monument. What's it? It's usually closed. Susan, my good neighbor, lived at her house, originally right across the street, a bunch of illustrious people. And she was saying that they had spaces for 4 sculptures, but they never raised the funds for that. Yeah. And right across the street is one of those last remaining mansions on the other side of the so-called Weiss Mansion. Isaac Weiss, who made a lot of money with various patents with some maritime things, some early submarine technology, but most famously the automobile battery. That's where he made most of his money. His wife, Julia Wright, and he's also famous. Anybody play serious chess? I don't, but there's the Rice Gambit. That's named after the guy that lived in the mansion, which later on got purchased by one of the two Shinacy brothers who had the other building up at 107th Street, Riverside. I'm digressing way too much. Isaac Rice and his wife, Julia, was either the first, second, or third female doctor in the United States. She graduated from the New York Medical College, which doesn't even exist. The woman's New York Medical College, which doesn't even exist anymore. And she also started the New York Society for Suppression of Noise. And then the Rice Museum was known as Villa Julia, in deference to her. She was a force. Okay. But anyhow, I can't show you a picture of the Rice Mansion with this earlier sculpture, but in Michael Susie's book on the Upper West Side, you can turn right to this postcard view of the Rice Mansion with a picture of George Washington's statue. This is the statue that was on that site from 1884 to 1889. And then they moved it to the Met, and the Met didn't own it. It was owned by the city of New York. So a few years later, they moved it back into City Hall, where it is today. So if you have the opportunity to go to City Hall, you'll see this copy of Putin's George Washington. The original, I think, is down at the state capitol in Richmond, Virginia. Speaking of George Washington, look at the size of this, especially compared to the people here. I love to show this just to remind myself and all of you that the 1939-1940 World's Fair, and it's the first World's Fair after about 125 World's Fairs that looked to the future. Every World's Fair before that looked to the past and recounted great inventions and achievements and stuff. 39 and 40 World's Fair had a futuristic theme to it. But the excuse for even having the fair was the 150th anniversary of George Washington taking the oath of office to be President of the United States, right down on the corner of Wall Street, and right across the stock exchange there. And this 68-foot-high statue of Washington was created. And then, like many buildings after the World's Fair, just deconstructed and kind of it's completely lost. The World's Fair was out in Queens, Flushing Meadows area, but now it's a park. In fact, it's the busiest park in the whole city now. It's even busier than the Central Park, mainly because of football games and stuff. Anybody recognize this? This is a tough one. This looks like something out of the next Star Wars movie, but this was actually a plan, so in a simple sense, it would have been a sculpture. Noguchi, excellent, wow. Oh, stand up and take a bow. No, that's, how did you know that? Did you go to that Noguchi?
Recently, and I think there's a picture of it.
Yeah. Noguchi, Isamu Noguchi, who lived for a brief period at 382 Central Park West. That doesn't exist anymore. That's where Park West Village is today. But in the earlier days, it was between the Pasteur Institute and the Reconstruction Hospital building right on Central Park West. Noguchi lived there for a short period. But he partnered with the great Louis Kahn. You know, Louis Kahn, there's 4 freedoms at the bottom end of Roosevelt Island. He just opened up for weeks ago. There's a movie on Louis Kahn, which is spectacular. Noguchi and Louis Kahn conjured up a redevelopment plan for Riverside Park, and this was just a part of it. This was way too much ahead of its time, so it pretty much got shot down. This was going to be the Adele Levy playground. Adele Levy was a heir to the Rosenwald, and you see his robe on fortune. And this was in the early 60s, and unfortunately during the Lindsay administration, the plan just ran out of steam. It would have changed Riverside Park in ways we can't even imagine. And finally, we get up to Strauss Park. We've covered this with 2 presentations before, so I won't do it again, other than to show you this again. And they have a chorus of 300 young students from the Educational Alliance downtown, with thousands of people that turned out for this. The Strauss family really wanted to keep this simple. There's no names here, there's nobody up on a horse, there's no pedestal. It's a very welcoming place. You can sit on the bench there. There's a pool around, there's a pool right in the middle there. Part of the ceremonies, they had about 30 young girls come and drop flowers right into the pool. The water obviously harkens a little bit back to their demise on the Titanic. But it's also water is a life force in terms of imagery and whatnot. Had it rained that day, the rain tonight, they would have conducted the same ceremony in the Bloomingdale Public School, which is right here on the next block. It got replaced by a modern building, but before that happened, there was an earlier building, 1900 vintage, a typical Riverside Public School. Charles B.J. Snyder also lived in a neighborhood, was the architect.
You know what year this was?
Yeah, this was 19, let me be careful. Either 13, 14, or 15. 1915. 15, April 15, 1915. Thank you. Yes. There's another picture that just shows that pool a little bit better. A little more detail I'll give you on this will really just go again to the sculpture and the architect. And again, I'll emphasize that most all sculpture memorials have an architect on them. In this case, the architect is Everett Tracy. I apologize for this digression. He was the great-grandnephew of Senator Everett's, Senator William Everett's. Senator William Everett's was involved in 3 of the most famous trials of the 1860s, 70s, and 80s. One of them was he crossed party lines. He was a strong supporter of Lincoln, if I remember correctly, but he actually wound up becoming the lead counsel for defending President Johnson when he was under impeachment. If you remember any of that history, Johnson was not impeached by 1 vote. So he also defended Henry Ward Beecher. Henry Ward Beecher was accused by one of his female congregants of having an affair. And he's also the man who was intricately involved with the outcome of the famous election of 1876, where Senator Tilden basically gave up the fight for the good of the country and said, I trust the people, and instead the president became Rutherford B. Hayes. So that was his great granduncle. Another one he's related to is Archibald Cox. I'll give you exact relationship. He's also related to anybody know Maxwell Everett's Perkins, one of the great, in fact, probably the legendary editor of all time. Editor Thomas Wolfe, Fitzgerald, Hemingway, and all the greats from that period who worked closely with Maxwell Everett's Perkins. There's a picture of Everett's Tracy. Henry Augustus Lukeman, of course, was a neighbor of ours living on 160th Street. When, West 86th Street, yeah. When Gutzon Borglum, again, we usually associate him with Mount Rushmore. Before that, they hired him to do that nefarious, it was going to be the world's largest sculpture at the time, the Confederate Generals Memorial on Stone Mountain, just outside of Atlanta. They hired Gutzon Borglum for that. And they fired him. They just couldn't work with him. So Augustus Bookman actually wound up, finishing, that off. So, but this really gets us to a picture of the official name of the sculpture, of course, is memory. It looks like it's an allegorical figure of memory. It looks like she's just contemplating something from the past or far back in the regions of her memory. It's an absolutely exquisite, masterful piece. In many ways, it even shows well from behind it, behind it, wonderful perspective on it. But what it really does, just in the interest of time here, or too long, gives us an opportunity to introduce Audrey Munson. I apologize for the partial nudity here. It's okay. People like Steve, if they don't get full nudity, I feel like they're being shortchanged. But she's a story unto herself. So many details. I'll get back to it just a little later. But these are just some, I mean some. She's posed for more than 50, maybe as much as 100 different sculptures through all of the city. On the left there is the main monument. Up at the top is the statues of Brooklyn and Manhattan, which were being held at the Brooklyn Museum. They were in the news about 3 weeks ago because they're bringing them back to the Manhattan Bridge, the original sculpture by Daniel Chester French, to be on each side of the bridge. And on the Manhattan side of the bridge is an exquisite etc. arrangement by all people, Carrier and Hastings. So it's a wonderful sculpture there. On the far upper right corner, anybody recognize that? That's up at 116th Street at Riverside Drive. That's the Women's Health Protective Association. It's an exquisite little piece. Lesser known architect, who knows them. This is Civic Virtue at the top of the municipal building. This is the famous walking $50 close to that. And this is, some people know this as Pomona. This is in front of like the Plaza Hotel. They're right at 58th Street and 5th Avenue. Everybody recognize that? It's a technical name. It's called Abundance, but it's really Pomona's the goddess of abundance in the Pulitzer Fountain. So she posed for all of that. And she also posed for, we showed Alma Mater by Daniel Chester French. We're not sure if she posed for that. The current thinking, this may change, is that French used her for the face. Okay, it's got that Catherine Hepburn quality to it, like cheekbones and whatnot. And the body was probably posed for by a rather obscure actress from Silent area, Mary Morton, because they're giving Mary the credit for holding the hands up as the sculpture was. But it's still not completely sure about that. But that's the great Audrey Munson. We'll come back to that one last time. Anybody ever heard of the Picciarelli brothers? Yes. These are the guys that sculptured everything over town. They have the largest sculpture operation in the United States, up at 467 West 142nd Street, not there anymore. Like all of those pieces that we saw, they sculptured all of that. They sculptured the lions in front of the New York Public Library, Patience and Fidelity. They worked with all the great ones, Augustus and Rose. They're the ones that you see here. They sculptured the Lincoln Memorial. They sculptured Lincoln and the Lincoln up in the Bronx in pieces, and then it was brought down by train and assembled. That's what they're doing. They're assembling. These guys did it all. They're absolutely incredible. And at least 2 of them, probably 3 of them, were creative sculptures themselves. But they would take works by any of the great sculptors and then execute them into the actual pieces. And they worked with everyone we spoke about here. all bitter, Texas, Lutheran. They were absolutely incredible. And there's the size of Lincoln and the Lincoln Memorial, in case you haven't got a sense of the size of it. Now, here's where I'm going to get everybody up for this. If you don't mind if we do another diversion?
Nope.
Okay. I'm gonna get to a piece of information that nobody knows about, except possibly for people that are in the family of what I'm going to get to. But this is so obscure. It's not on any website. It's not a footnote to a book. It's nowhere. It's completely brand new. And to get there, I'm going to connect Piccirilli Brothers with that building on the right. Does anybody recognize that building on the right? I'll give you a clue. It's where Lady Gaga grew up on West 70th Street. The Pythian Temple. That's a landmark building. If you ever walk down West 70th Street, you'll see that Pythian Temple. It's been adaptively changed into apartments. That's really spectacular. It's a Thomas Lamb building. When we beat to death the Riverside Church, the Riverside Theater, and the Riviera Theater, those are both Thomas Lamb theaters. He's one of the great theater architects of all time. He even did a theater, it's not there anymore, and Bill helped with the name Nemo, 110th Street in Broadway. You know, where there's Speedy, remember Speedy? So there's that shop there. Yeah. He did the theater there, but he's done so many other renowned things, some of the great Lowe's theaters he's done. So that's Thomas Lamb. On the left side here, I show you that all the brothers in the Piccirilli family have names. The one that was called Saniello called himself Thomas. And Thomas Piccirilli had a son, Albert Piccirilli. Albert Piccirilli had a son who he named Albert Piccirilli Jr. But Albert Piccirilli called himself Al Rex. So who cares about that, right? Well, let's go back to the Pythian Temple. Decca Records, which is now part of the worldwide conglomerate of the MCA, Decca Records started recording in the Pythian Temple in the early 50s. And in April of 1954, they recorded a record that a group took to the number 23 position on the charts, the national charts. Nobody thought much of it. The following year, a movie came out, Blackboard Jungle, and it catapulted their song, Bill Haley and the Comets, right up to number 1 on the charts for 8 weeks. It became the first really popular rock and roll song. It's probably not the first rock and roll song, but the first really popular one. That was recorded in the Pythian Temple, as was Billie Holiday, who lived in Hollywood for a while on West 99th Street, and the late Buddy Holly stuff was recorded there as well. So, why do I mention that? Bill Haley and the Comets had a guy who played bass, and as part of their routine, I apologize for all this arcana, the guy who played bass was very animated, and he had this ability to jump up on the bass. It was a stand-up bass, not a bass guitar. The ability to jump up on the bass while he's still playing it. He had the ability to jump on his back and play stand-up bass while he was still playing. So I apologize for these next pictures, but so on the left side, you can see him standing up. On the right side, he's on his back. Of course, the Bill Haley guitar there. A little bit of really obscure rock and roll history. Way too kind. All right, here's some more interesting detail. The great sculptor Frederick McMonnies sculptured this piece of civic virtue in 1922. This is the sculpture that everybody loved to hate, mainly because the male figure there, his foot is on the head of 2 females. And as a matter of allegory and Greek story, there are 2 evil sirens. So it's It's maybe not as bad as it appears to be, but it doesn't look all that great. So this was first in City Hall Park. Nobody thought much of it. But then they needed a space. They got rid of it. They sent it out to Queens on Queens Boulevard in right by the courthouse up there, the Union Turnpike leads to Queens Boulevard. Joe, you and I have been out there, and Nancy has been there. And then it started getting very decayed and whatnot. And here we see it in Greenwood Cemetery. They were good enough to agree to take it and refurbish it. When the Piccirilli brothers carved this piece, this set of furniture in 1922, this was thought to be the largest piece ever carved in marble since Michelangelo's David. That's how significant that is. Here's a picture of it when it was in front of our City Hall. Here's Attilio Piccirilli. One brother did a lot of pieces by himself, famously the main monument, but he also did this monument, which most of us know, the Fireman's Memorial. The figures on both sides of that's meant to be a sarcophagus, and then the figures on the north side of the south side. See the one on the south side. Those are all modeled from Audrey Munson. Here's a little closer look at the bas relief that tells the story of
Jim? Question here, Jim.
What's the reason for the location of that?
Bob Yeoman here asks, what's the reason for the location? There is no reason. You know, that's when we began with Joan O'Rourke, my friend out in Valley asked me, she said, well, if anybody knows why Joan O'Rourke was on 93rd Riverside Park, Jim ought to know. Well, Jim doesn't know everything. Jim's still trying to figure out the last election. But it turns out this one was originally going to be where the tickets booth is on 47th and Broadway. And then the fire commission at the time didn't want to be there. So then they toyed around with Central Park or Central Park South somewhere. They couldn't get agreement on that. And then finally, the people that had headed up the committee here, including, believe it or not, Isidore Strauss, but also William Randolph Hearst, who was involved with a lot of the funding and whatnot, they argued to put it on the Riverside Drive because they were just getting frustrated with too much discussion about these other places. But there's no particular reason why it's there. It actually commemorates a fire that took place in 1908 down at 215 Canal Street. Horrible story where there was a picture frame factory and the battalion chief and some of his men, it's one of these things where the floor collapsed, they fell down into the basement was already flooded with water, so some of them died with that. The battalion chief weighed over 300 pounds, so they were having a hard time getting him out of the bottom. And one of the firemen actually put his leg down so that the battalion chief could grab onto it, but he couldn't do it with a combination of the solar beams and difficult conditions. So right after that, the funeral services, Bishop Henry Cotton Potter, who wanted to bring the cathedral up to here, he was the one that recommended that there ought to be a fireman's memorial. There was only one fireman's memorial in the whole city before this. You can still see it. It was down in James J. Walker Park, Mayor Jimmy Walker, right on the Royce Street, again in the West Village. But this, to this day, is still absolutely spectacular. On the day they dedicated it and unveiled it, they put 2 American flags over there. It was a windy day, just like tonight. And they had 6 firemen holding down the flags. And then they had 4 daughters of the firemen who pull off the flag to unveil the monument. Very, very moving song. There's a lot more detail about it, but I'm going to give you another homework job here. You can find Attilio Piccirilli's name on the monument in 3 locations. So next time you're there, see if you can find it. You can also find the name of the architect. Actually, we can't see it with this image, but it's right around here. Harold Van Buren Maganelli. He's a very renowned architect. Here's one of the two outdoor figures here on the north and south side.
What's the name of that?
What's that?
What's the name of that masterpiece?
One is called Dewey, and the other one is called, I forget. On the south side here, one's called, on the north side it's called Sacrifice. On the south side it's called Dewey. This one, Dewey, if you look really carefully, you'll see the nose has been repaired. That was a common problem with sculptures. Usually they lose the sword or something that sticks out, but noses are not pretty commonly. In fact, Carl Ruby, when he did that movie, you can check on YouTube, and they restored a lot of the sculptures around the city. They emphasized how they repaired the nose. So in 1930, they did a restoration. And then another restoration was done in 1991, that's when they found a copper box that had letters between the architect and some of the people in the fire department. So, but I'm keeping everybody way too long. The sculpture of the monument won the competition to do the war memorial for the Robert Fulton centennial. Fulton's ship went out the Hudson River and called it North River in 1809. And 100 years later, they were going to build this stadium at the foot of 116th Street where it meets the Hudson River. I'm sorry I don't have a better image, but I thought I'd just give you a sense of that scale. He's done things all over, and this is just a few, Jan, you may remember this, in Kansas City. Kansas City has one of the top 5 train stations in the whole country. And then he did this World War I memorial, which pretty much defines the city. This is modern Kansas City. So, Harold Van Buren Maganelli's grandmother was the cousin to President Van Buren, and his mother, I think, was the sister of Edwin Booth's first wife. So let's begin to wrap it up here. There's Audrey Munson. She lived in a few different places in her city. I've only listed 2 here that are kind of on the Upper West Side, but she lived further up Broadway, 4,441 Broadway, and she lived on West 239th Street for a while. But in 1930, and she was discovered in our neighborhood. She was walking by the Lincoln Arcade. It's a question every so often in the New York Times or historical circles. Lincoln Center was named after Abraham Lincoln. And the answer is absolutely no. Because before there was Lincoln Center, there was the Lincoln Arcade. A number of the Ashcan painters and studios that Georgia Miller was slow for a while. And there was a photographer there who saw Audrey Munson walk along the street, and he invited her in to take pictures that quickly circulated within the artistic community. But she more than proved herself, not just because of her beauty, admittedly that was her main capital, but she had this uncanny ability, much as been written about it, to pose in a way that just evoked the values that they were trying to eke out of the sculptures that they were creating. I just loved the way she did that. She was the favorite model of all the great sculptures for reasons that I want to fully appreciate. But in 1931, she left the city, her and her mother, back to the little town we came from, upstate New Mexico, New York. You'll have a hard time finding out on the maps, but it's like north and west of Syracuse. And for reasons that are a little bit complicated, she gets put into a psychiatric St. Lawrence Psychiatric Center. This is in the 1930s, put into the St. Lawrence Psychiatric Center in Ogdensburg, New York, which is right on the St. Lawrence Seaway. And she stays there for 65 years.
Oh, God.
You may have noticed those dates, that's not a typo. She was born in 1891 and she died at age 104 in 1996. It's an incredible story. Again, there's much more to it. Eventually, this will be a movie, maybe an opera. There's so much depth here. It's fascinating. And we can pay final homage to the Picciarelli brothers by again showing one of their masterpieces, or great fireman's memorial. A couple of things here. The building on the left is the old Peter Dolger mansion. Dolger was one of the great breweries in the city. Notice the street lamps at the bottom of the steps.
The water picture in front, that is dedicated to the fireplaces.
That's right.
There's a
Yeah.
bronze relief above showing the places.
That's right. Mary's bringing out the dedications of the horses. And in 1927, the ASPCA put some wording in the front of it that connects with all of the horses that did heroic work. Notice also the bronze bas relief is not there. The original bas relief was done right in the Tennessee limestone. It got replaced in the 1940s, I believe, because they had worn away too much. So the good news is that now when you look at bas relief, you can kind of see what's the essential part of the story. So thank you so much for questions. I know it's late and people really want to get home. Richard's referring to the sculpture on 113th Street and One Side Avenue, not One Side Drive. It's the, I guess, Bartoli, the same elevator, the Statue of Liberty, the Embassy East there, Lafayette in Washington. You can go there and contemplate it. There's the more detailed stuff now who funded it. Every one of these sculptures took private funding, but typically raised among school children and stuff like that. Bartoli also gave us another piece of Lafayette in Union Square Park. Steve, real quick.
Why was there so much objection to the hand sculpture?
Can you repeat that, Jim?
Yeah, Steve's asking why was there so much objection to the great God Pan sculpture that's now on Columbia Campus? Really just the subject matter. If you look closely at it next time you're there, you'll see this horrible looking guy. Again, the people living in the Dakota, all sorts of famous people who've been in the 1880s, they didn't want to look out their window and look at that. Curiously enough, Peter Pan, the great James M. Barrie play that becomes the Mary Martin music, that is essentially has the same source. It's this person living in nature and whatnot. But when it's represented this way, it's the body of a goat, and it has a horrible looking head. So even Columbia moved it around a few times. But enough said.
Just fascinated by the pictures of Broadway, which is a pedestrian mall going into part of the mansion, or whatever wonderful last name. Park Avenue, of course, had a pedestrian mall, but I didn't see it in the dedication of the Strauss Park, which was, it should have been there.
They're talking about very character of Broadway, which before 1898 was called the Boulevard for a while, west of there. But it did have that part that went through. By the time of the Strauss vacation, it had already been.
So they're saying when they built the subway is when they.
Yes, they go for subway, and as you point out, they did the same thing in Park Avenue. Park Avenue originally had a park that, went from 45th Street all the way to 90th Street. We're getting that back. One night I discovered, it was one of these things where they make the announcement on the train on the lot, they said, we're going to be delayed and whatever, so I get right out of the train at 96th Street to walk up to 109th Street. And I was able to walk in a closed lane all the way up to, I think, 101st Street. So, yes.
I just recently able to go on Eastern Park area, and I know Ocean Park. So will all the little boroughs have this always,
Oh boy, you just warmed the cockles in my heart. This is a wonderful question to end with, because if anybody wants to see me up here, she's talking about Eastern Parkway and Ocean Parkway in Brooklyn. Those were both built by Frederick Law Olmsted in conjunction with Prospect Park, which Olmsted and Olmsted was considered their masterpiece, better than even Central Park. And Olmsted in particular actually invented, crafted the very word parkway. You believe that? He also crafted the word probably Morningside. But with parkway, he was trying to emphasize this thoroughfare is first a park, and secondly, it's a thoroughfare. So Eastern Parkway is literally the first parkway in the world, first use of the word parkway, and Ocean Parkway was the second one right after that. Very powerful words. And Morningside, the same thing. You can't get much more away than the very word Morningside. But if you look in any dictionary, Oxford English Dictionary, you won't find the word Morningside. It's still a proper name. Parkway has worked its way into common usage. So, thank you again.
Is in power, and that's why we got that pedestrian bridge on 151st Street, because Denny Farrell wants his community to be able to walk to the park. And it's a reasonable thing to want. It's unfortunate that it cost $50 million. But it's, 6 lanes of highway and a railroad track, it's handicap accessible, but it's in construction now. And the first time ever, you'll be able to get there in a carriage or wheelchair from the neighborhood to the river. Judith.
Talk a little bit about the additional historic research you've done and how you were, if your thoughts about the history of the park and the way the ideas were changed at all
So it's a the Riverside Park history is a complicated design history. There's Frederick Homestead, there's Gilmore Park, and there are these monuments. And the basic story is that you can't attribute it to any one designer. And Margaret Brackett, who's the Riverside Park landscape architect, and I've had some pretty good conversation about what is the character of the landscape, especially in the 1930 era next to the highway. And so at any rate, short answer is, it's a long discussion. And some other time. And we've been all look, I'm surprised to see so many people here tonight. I thought you thought we were going to have a vote. If your question wasn't answered, I'll hang out up here and you can come up and talk.
How have you been? Well, yes, I'm
Oh, you mean along the water?
Yeah.
You don't like the hill?
Well, I like the
like the
hill.
45
I do, but it's not. So from the Little Red Lighthouse going north.
Right.
So we brought the path south, right, from Diamond Street. And then the problem is there are those rocks. And that the railroad is very near to the water. And the railroad will not let us have a nibble of that space. They won't. They are so different. To make that connection, we have to go over the rocks and then north. And that's the plan. That's what we were money again, right? And permitting. Because the permitting held up the cantilever section in the 80s for 10 years. And every year, 4% construction inflation, 4%. No added value, just more costs, more costs, more costs, more costs, more costs. But this year, didn't really.
Halfway.
At about 100,
Ordinance.
I'm very interested in the Del Roosevelt movie playground that was a Gucci Khan project on 102nd Street. And I'm researching the background of it. And I wondered if you knew any experts in that history.
So, have you been to the Gucci Museum?
Yeah, and I've been in all kinds of archival papers.
The deal is that the neighborhood.
I know the history of it, but I'm wondering if you know anyone who's expert in it or who was around at the time who was navigating it to the park.
It might have been Joe Bresnan. And he's around. So it's Joe and Adrian Bresnan, and he's probably in the phone book.
Okay.
I took Mr. Noguchi into Riverside Park and tried to get him to build it inside a park that wasn't heavily treed. He was not interested.
there's a pavilion on the northbound side of the
Thank you.
West Side Highway. On the West Side Highway, there's a
Can you film me? This is a very avid crowd.
Oh, it is. Everybody's got an opinion.
Yes, we all are not.
It's almost inaccessible now. I don't know if there's any plan to make that accessible.
Part of Fort Tryon.
Even though it's at Fort South. This is across from George Washington Bridge. That's there Fort Tryon.
But
Is there any plan at all to make that accessible? Because it no longer is. When you drive by it, you realize how spectacular it used to be. You can't get to it.
the person who would know that answer would be Jennifer Hoppe. Jennifer Hoppe was the Northern Manhattan Parks administrator. There were some social problems associated with car parking there, and car stripping, parties, and so forth.
So not because of that, essentially was all right. There's not much plan right now. Thank you. All right, thank you.
Oh, and I get a tree. What kind is it?
Did you write a poem with it?
Sunday.
Okay. Okay. That's very good.
I have a question. I'm a historian of horses in Manhattan, and I've only begun to really recently address the Riverside Drive. Did it only go along the drive, Tower of Knowledge? So it never went in. And it was taken out by Robert Moses, I know that. And I also know that all those naughty horsemen tried to get lanes run across 72nd and 86th and 110th Street. Yes, a little dirt path. There's no reason why they couldn't have done it. Of course, the horsemen said. But they were pretty modest in their proposals compared to the fast trotting horsemen.
Did you turn up anything in the 70s? There was someone who was telling me that
Oh, well, I used to work at the Claremont Riding Academy. We were asked to come and do a ride in the park. It was a lot of fun. And so we trailed along all the way up to 120th Street. It was hysterical.
so I missed the Claremont.
2007, in fact, 9 years ago.
I assembled an instant lobbying group of people, including myself, to urge you to pay some attention to the quality and color of the nighttime light in the park. It is a good place to start clearing the city of this ghastly orange glow, which is terrible, terrible.
It's high pressure mercury vapor that's really the idiot. And the new LEDs are so brilliant. I know they're cheap to operate, but in Central Park, just on the highway, the LED lamps are.
Oh, well.
No, the sodium thing, the low pressure sodium is vastly superior to
Ideally, it's color. I just think the orange is totally garish and unnatural.
See, this one's, those are the high pressure sodium, those are the orange. No, that's yellow.
Not to me, not to me. It's orange to me. Anyway,
Yellow orange, you know that curve when you're coming out of 96th Street on the highway, and all of a sudden there's the ramp that side was good enough to get us. For people to walk along the water, and it's actually above the water level. Well, all of a sudden there's a traffic snafu on the highway because people don't understand what that orange light is that's lighting the walkway. They think it's for them. They think all this lighting has to be changed. I think it's wrong. The cars almost stop because they can't see beyond the curve. I don't know about glare. All I know is they haven't seen an orange-yellow light before on the
I'm
highway.
gonna have to go look at this.
At
you
night.
have to drive it.
At night. And you have to drive it.
On the Henry Hudson
On the
Parkway,
Henry Hudson?
southbound.
Yes, that's right.
95th Street exit, right?
Yeah, but it's just after. It's not southbound. With a big curve.
Is it just much cheaper than
Well, those are the old, that was cheaper than
mercury vapor?
incandescent. And then mercury vapor was one option. That,
And the low pressure sodium, which
Yeah.
is much not.
You're
For me,
welcome.
it's a better color.
and then the LEDs can be color adjusted, and I believe that the highway LEDs are too bright and they're not shielded properly. So I think that'll
Makes a big
evolve.
difference. Look at what Time Warner had to do so that the people in the building in the Columbia, remember that their light was too
Thank you, Charles. And I do want to make a quick comment that I hope that the black locust, that you'll consider black locust, keeping a spot for black locust because they're
They're a good tree.
They've got the nitrogen fixing. They're good lawn trees.